Just a few seconds left here. 7, 6 left. Freiburg goes for the kill. He's going to pick it up. If Jesnik survives, he's going to win the round. There's no time. Oh my God, Freiburg! Are you kidding me? They win the round because of it. Now Freiburg is going to be walking around that.
Hello everyone, it's another episode of By the Numbers. It barely feels like we've been away, almost as if we were cramming in content for no good reason at all. But it's just as well we're two of the most entertaining motherfuckers in esports. We're here to make you laugh, we're here to make you sing, and joining me to do that is of course Duncan Shields.
Are we here to make them sing? Is that?
No, we're not going to do that. No.
You're mistaking this for like X Factor or something, yeah?
Yeah, I was getting a bit... I am rich, I am.
That would be a great fucking idea for a panel, by the way. Like a show where it's like X Factor, but people audition to show off like their CS knowledge or their casting or something, and we're the panel members, you know?
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. I'd like to do that for just people who come in with like investments and stuff. That'd be good. Yeah, so I'm going to drop 25 million. Yeah, I'm going to
reverse Dragon's Den. They want to invest, and we tell them if it's shit. Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, and for that reason, you should be out. It's the Overwatch League.
That'll be good.
So, yeah, it would be. Good idea for content, and I'm sure you will now start a 100-long video series to go with your other 20 video series that you've got. So, look, where we left last podcast was talking about, obviously, what was going on at the minor with all of the cheating and everything else. And now, of course, we've got past that and we've actually got some teams decided. So we're going to break that down, talk about what it means in the context, pick up on some roster moves. There's still plenty to talk about. We didn't even talk about Dust 2, so we're going to get round into that. But before we do, Duncan, corrections and annoyances. Now, I've got no... Is
that a new segment, is it?
Yeah. Corrections
along with sensitive conversations.
It sounds like a new segment to me, right? Okay.
Listen, mate, right? Because there was something on the Reddit thread that fucking pissed me off. Like, if you disagree with an opinion that we say on the show, obviously, by all means, feel free to critique it. Feel free to disagree with it. Don't take what we say as gospel. Absolutely no reason why you should. You know, we have worked in the industry a long time, but we understand the power of the armchair fan. We understand there's some people out there who literally are riveted to CS 24/7, and their opinion, who's to say? I would entertain a well-articulated opinion from the average fan, Duncan. I don't believe all fans are crazy, unlike certain people who have popularized hashtags.
Here's the problem, though. I actually think you can almost instantly tell when it's going to be reasonable. I mean, this might sound like an abstract point, right? But I once heard someone say, I forget who, it was some sort of someone who a thinker on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. They once made the point, right, that yeah, sure, you shouldn't like go mad when someone has one little typo. Like, say it's a typo that an autocorrect could have fucked up for you, or you just type in quickly and you missed it, right? That is fine. That has nothing to do with intelligence. But actually, if you ever see people who write stuff like when it should be like you are, but the shortened version. When they do stuff like that, generally that actually is a pretty good indicator that they probably don't read much or that they don't ever write a lot, you know, because maybe they've only spoken the word most of the time. And so in that sense, I would say, I don't care who the comment's by. If it can be by a complete nobody that I don't know. But if it's like well structured, it's got paragraphs and it looks like the tone they're taking is reasonable. Yeah, I'd read all those comments. It could be really interesting. It could be the next great thinker. Problem is, most people who are like, why don't you take my feedback and advice? Like, it's just pure shit, isn't it? Even the way it's written, it's just nothing. It's no fucking... The ones where there's no paragraphs, I'm out immediately.
The ones that always get me are that you are the reason esports will never succeed, and it's like, first of all, it already has. You daft.
I wish I had that power. That's like Gamergate level shit, isn't it? Like, you're the reason Trump was elected. Like, am I really? But I'm not even from America, but it's obviously just me, in it. All me and my love of hating Polygon. What are you talking about?
So you got that right, and then like. I get that like at least once a day. Like, esports will never be taken seriously. It is. Fuck off. And then they'll always pick like something analogous to something that happens in real sports. Like, you'd never get this happen in football. And then you cite an example where it totally did happen in football. Like, I remember at the height of the match fixing scandal, somebody unironically said, you wouldn't get match fixing in real sports. I'm like, fucking shoot me in the face. Like, what world? Like, what? fucking Dazed and that lot were the first ever discovered match fixing, were they? It's like fucking Prometheus with fire, except, unadulterated greed. So absurd stance to take. But anyway, there was a guy on Reddit who said that, they didn't know who Havu was. Now, I knew Havu was like a team that had some Finnish players in. And what this person postulates is that I didn't know who they were, and I assumed they were a UK team because I said I'd seen a UK player called Oleski tweet about it. Right, so he literally says, "I'll give you the comments."
I mean, that guy is Finnish, though, isn't he?
No, this is the thing. This is my error.
Right,
Oleksi,
yes,
is a Finnish player.
Yes,
Oleski is a classic UK 1.6er. Alex Way.
And did he tweet?
No, he didn't. I just
you just mistook them,
because Alexei is such a fucking shit generic, name. It could be anyone in Russia, whatever. Like, I just didn't register it. I thought it must be Aleski,
Sure.
So I just, in my mind, quickly checking all the tweets before the show transposed it. I never said Havu was a UK team. I know Havu aren't. It's not exactly a UK word. I thought like Oleski might be involved in a managerial capacity or just like one player, like clinging to the vestiges of his career. And this guy's going, they don't even bloody know anything. They just say all these false facts and these fake news. And it's like, listen, mate. And the funny thing was, actually, somebody linked Oleski the clip, and he just messaged me back going, I'm not in a state to be 125th at anything right now. He's done. So yes. So, right, well, thanks for that, mate. All the best. So anyway, and then they said, because you joked, and they obviously know it's a joke, because they're saying you joked, you said, yeah, bloody hell, we've been seeded 125th, but we're really 115th. Yeah. They're like, well, they use that as evidence to say, well, you clearly don't know who they are, because realistically they'd be seeded 30th. Well, the joke doesn't work if we use the real seed. You fucking moron.
Also, let's be real. Like, when you do the seeding, this is one of the areas, where for HLTV.org, I get why they do seed as far down as you can go, and they do go past, I don't know if they go, do they go to 100? I don't know. I know they go like well past, 20, 30, 40. Problem is, if you have a system for doing it right, they obviously use a point system anyway. And in theory, as a result, you don't have to manually do it. It just generates based on everyone's placing in all these tournaments, right? That's fine. It makes logical sense to just open it to all the teams and have a rough idea. But it's not like that's ironclad, is it? Here's the difference, right? If a bunch of experts or even the HLTV.org system rates someone 5th in the world, it's probably pretty close that they're around there. Like, maybe they're 6th, maybe they're 4th. They're not going to be like 15th, are they? If you're ranked 34th, that means you probably aren't even going to LANs very often. You're probably trying to aggregate where someone is in fucking ESEA, ESL main with how far you didn't qualify for a LAN qualifier, but you made it to the round of it. There's so many factors here that are going into how you get to be 34th and not 60th. That come on, mate. Those aren't very ironclad rankings. And I don't know how stupid the people are at HLTV, but I'd imagine even they would probably say, once you get that far down, it's not exactly a science, Yeah,
of course not. I don't even think once in any competition, no matter how big it is, I think once you've gone past 10. It becomes so madly subjective, and with every additional 10, it becomes wilder and wilder to the point.
Well, whenever I do my own rankings, that's part of the reason I don't go past 10. I could obviously now, first of all, it's because when I started, there barely were 10 really good teams, so you didn't really need more. But actually, the reason why I don't do it now, even though there is room for another 10, and you could certainly have a lot of teams, because then you'd see not that people just disappear, but how far down did they go and did they come back up? But the main reason why I don't do it is because it gets so insanely subjective once you get past about 10. Once I even get to around 9 or 10, now I'm going off none of these teams that get out of groups at most tournaments. Yeah. So whose 8th place was better than the other one, and did they win a map against the top team? Did they get one map and it's fucking hell? I can't do that for the 28th place team. Life's too short.
Right, and then even worse than Jarry coming up with this, I will criticise Richard for something he didn't even say, fictitious pricklord. You've got the guy beneath him, Sarthak 94. 94 being the number he hopes his fucking IQ.
No, you just know when it's 94. He was born in 94, mate.
No, it's definitely the fact that he aspires to have an IQ that is the median average in Western society, right? He goes, it's not the first time Thorin and Lewis said something and backed it with proper research. Meaning, of course, the opposite of his opening sentence. Great gambit, you thick cunt. Right? Then he goes, I even tweeted Lewis about the same, even providing the proof. He just blocked me. All the classic on Reddit, He blocked me for no reason. Oh, what did you tweet at him? Well, that he's a fat cunt and he deserves to die. Yep, no reason at all. Like, I have to put up with that. And then I tweeted about the same, providing the proof. Proof of what? You demented prick. Then he goes, I wish...
This is the proof of my opinion. Why have you not accepted this?
Yeah, right. He goes, I wish I was as terrible as an analyst. This must be you. And kept on having my job forever and ever. Thorin is a terrible analyst. For instance, he always picks favourites. And every team he picks ends up losing. And he goes, for instance...
Both of those facts are fucking amazing.
Yeah, exactly. The idea that to be a good analyst, you must be clairvoyant. Like, oh, is there anybody there? Like, that's not what analysis is.
No, think of those two. Think of the two statements. One, I just always pick favourites.
Yeah. Again, no, but he even deleted his fucking comment because he said he picked G2 to beat Cloud9 and he picked North to beat FaZe. In what world is North the favourite? And people called him out on it underneath, so he went back and deleted that.
Also, that other part, that all of them are wrong.
What's that?
So I simultaneously pick all the favourites and I'm always wrong.
Yeah, imagine that.
The betting world just must be out of control, right?
Yeah, no, it is. Everyone's gone bust.
Favourites are, we have to, because everyone's betting on the underdog. Everyone's reaming in money. By the way, this cunt's probably never made a bet in his life, even though, by his own logic, just bet against me.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that for my NXT Sports Pools intro.
No, I think you should.
I'll get his quote, the evidence, and I'll say, just bet against me and the favourite, and you'll win. I'll probably get... That's probably illegal to tell people to explicitly bet against the favourite and that they will win. Then again, though, I could say that if I was a sponsor of perhaps HLTV.org, they would probably take money for that.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good.
I'm glad. Just about.
Yeah, me always liked HLTV. Just always liked them. No hit pieces. Fast.
Just leave it there.
Yeah, that was a wild advertisement.
It's America. You'd at least have to have a guy afterwards warning you will not, in fact, get rich. There's not even any of that. Just get rich fast or whatever it is. Like, are you fucking for real?
It turns out it's a motherfucking sewer. Who knew? Online esports gambling with skins. Yeah, no problem. Open some fucking cases while you're there. P.S. We've got an algorithm working at the back of the website. You can't see. It's brilliant, isn't it? So anyway, So that's that. So, when I said corrections, there is a slight correction there, but basically I just wanted to point out these people are fucking idiots. You want to criticize the show, do it on things we said. Do it on things that are real. That would just be nice if you could just do that. So here's the thing. Let's start by talking about Dust 2.
Okay.
Dust 2's out. It's coming to the beta now. Sam, if you can sort of play, I know there's a video of what the new Dust 2 looks like. I think you'll find like a sweeping hop around. If not, you'll find one. Bring up some screenshots or whatever. So the first question is, I've had a look at it, had a hop around on it. I actually like it. I actually think this is perhaps as good a remake as we could have hoped for. Now, understand, for me, when Dust 2 got took out of the map pool and they were announcing a remake, I was hugely skeptical. I didn't think it was a problematic map beyond being perhaps a little bit boring and maybe aesthetically kind of like Mirage. It didn't quite fit in with some of the newer maps. So it was kind of jarring to have more modern models and, more kind of higher resolution graphics kind of running around on the old Dust 2, which has remained pretty much untouched since CSGO came out. So I was skeptical, but I can understand why they might want to look at it. Plus, there was lots of players that subscribed to the argument that, what can you do, with Dust 2 that hasn't been done before? It's the iconic map. It's the first map that really took off, and everybody's played it, and we've all done tactics on it till, ad nauseum. So I think a lot of teams sort of did welcome it going out for a remake. The danger of course, was that they remade it into something that was completely unidentifiable, which I think would have been a horrific move and would have really turned a lot of people off at the prospect of the map being reintroduced. And I think Valve actually got the balance right here. I think in terms of what they've done to the map, I think they've taken some of the choke points and made them, giving you a bit more outplay potential. I think what they've done with the B bomb site's pretty good. I think it looks better. I think everything's cleaner. I like what they've done with the square edges on the car instead of that throwback to the old Source models where there's clipping and you can get wedged in places. I think as well, although I haven't had chance to check all the spots, I think they've got rid of all the issues with the bomb going through the floor. There's a couple of spots on the map that does that, which of course is great, but people should be testing that in the beta. So overall, my impressions on it are pretty good. I don't know if you've had the same luxury, because obviously you're a busy man with your videos. And
I've had a look at the pictures of what the changes are. I haven't played the map.
All right.
I mean, I have some concerns. Like, I am someone who thought, I mean, first of all, I'm against the idea that, like, you have to remove maps, but whatever. If we are in this cycle where you have to remove one to have a chance of getting a new one, I thought Dust 2 wasn't a bad shout. Like, my main problem with it is, like, a lot of the maps I want removed is because I think they're boring, but I actually don't think Dust 2 itself is boring. I just think it's more just that, like, here's the funny thing, it can actually be a very exciting map. The problem is, though, I always felt like it was, like, way too skill dependent. And I especially feel like on the CT side, it's so fucking hard to play that map. Like, you're just in such a bad spot a lot of the time that I think there's a good, put it this way, this would be one of my main cases I would give as to why I don't think it's a good map in CSGO, is that in all of history, you go in any era and pick like the number one Dust 2 team. And none of them ever have like some unreal win rate. It's almost impossible to have one because it's so skill dependent and because it's so simplistic but difficult for the CTs. There's so many opportunities for lesser teams or even teams as good as you but not on that map to beat you. Whereas that's like not the case at all for some other maps. Like think about when we were talking on the last show about FaZe beating Astralis on Overpass and that record they have where, you know, this year they've lost something like 4 times out of like 23 or something, you know, something mental like that. That's against even the other really good Overpass teams. They only got beaten 4 times out of 20 plus. Go and find any era when someone is the best clear team on Dust 2. They'll still be losing every third game or so, you know. Like, it's just so tough. So, unfortunately, those two factors, like way too skill dependent and then too easy to kind of get upset on, probably because partly that first element, I just thought made it not that good for competitive play. You know, I definitely see why it makes a lot of sense as a matchmaking map because it is matchmaking. You're not in a real team. You are just trying to play your spot and hope you have a chance to win the games. It's probably the ultimate matchmaking map, right? It's ideal in that sense. Whereas, you know, something like Cobblestone is a fucking nightmare of matchmaking because no one plays the spots properly. You have no coordination. You have no tactics. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on it. So I don't mind it coming back. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the remake because actually the remake doesn't look like they changed much, to be honest. Like, they haven't. There's a lot of subtle changes, but there's subtle changes that I think will have a profound impact on gameplay, especially on the B-bomb side. The thing is, though, I think the changes have to help the CT side for it to improve the map, because that's the problem. I do think the CT side was really fucked up on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of people that they had the knee jerk initially when they made the B tunnel entrance narrower, and they were like, "Well, how the fuck are we supposed to get out? You've already got the luxuries of CT of throwing a smoke down and spamming through it, or getting lineups with an AWP from the back of the fucking site on plat, or you can hold it on the double stack box, and when people rush out, even if they don't get chopped down." You're usually in a position where you can get maybe 2 kills and hold the site off yourself, So there was a lot of problematic issues with the B site for the terrorists. But what they've done now is by making it narrower, on paper it sounds like it would be worse, but they've actually made the entrance higher. And as a result, you can sort of like angle smokes off and you can get some pretty good smoke coverage into the B bomb site just using the higher elevation for the trajectory of the smokes. They've taken away that double stack box, so you're exposed now. If you stand on it, you've got a much easier target area. I think overall, and I have no idea how much playtesting's been done on this for them to arrive at the conclusion these were the changes that had to be made. But I actually think this will lead to a much more balanced map. I think it's actually getting towards cash in terms of being you're going to go through phases again where you'll see T sides dominate, see T sides dominate, and it'll be back and forwards in the meta in this new iteration.
One of the problems though with that site always was that like it plays so differently again in a matchmaking set from actually a team setting, because the biggest problem is there are so many pro teams. Like you don't ever attack B just through the tunnel, you know, you always do a split from mid to B. And if people had a really good one of those, like this is one of those things where it would actually be ideal to do a round table. And what you'd need to do is you just need to get all the best B site players on CT side from the pro scene. So get like, I think Dupree played it, get a few of the top pros, right? And fucking hell, that map, that spot is a nightmare to play as a CT, you know, because you just, they only hit you when they do a split in pro play. So first of all, you can get shot crossing over. Then you go into the site, you're in a nightmare scenario where you have to almost perfectly guess how they come out. It's really, really tough. So I don't know whether that will change that or not. I mean, the real question here, the part you can never know before a map comes into competitive play, is even if the person thinks they're fixing something in a certain way, like, oh, I'm going to make it better from the terrorists in this way, because pro players are so innovative and they will figure out little edges, for all we know, that might actually end up helping the CTs. Like maybe having a higher tunnel means they do boosts over the top of a smoke and shoot you when you come to that part. Maybe they can, I don't know, flash in or in a better manner, but there's more angles to do it off. I don't know. So you never really know until they've started to play it, you know. And obviously the big question as well is, unfortunately, in an esports context, it's not just are we going to bring in Dust 2, it's what do you take out to replace it? Because that will be a key factor as to how welcomed it is, you know.
Yeah. I mean, again, obviously, when the pros start playing it, we'll get a better idea about what the meta is going to look like. You know, I understand, for example, say, you know, there's people in chat making this point that, oh, you've got to keep the T's off B site because it's a lot harder to retake and, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's, you know, I don't know about that. What I think is there's got to be opportunities for good executes that can't be like easily shut down. And I think B is sort of, in terms of balance within the game, it's kind of fallen a little bit short of that goal. A lot of people are saying they want to open the skybox in B tunnels. That would be insanity, because then you couldn't hold onto the site as a CT at all, because you'd be getting flashed over before people
I don't really get that one. Here's the thing, right? The reason why it was good we had a skybox in 1.6 is because the skybox is over the outside of the site, like the part that goes to CT spawn. And the whole point of that is that helps the CTs retake, because they can flash you fully before they come in. I don't know why people wanted it from the tunnels, because if anything, I think that would only help the terrorists. Yeah. I don't think the CTs are going to flash that and push in, you know. So again, like I say, if anything, I think already that one site is already too tough for the terrorists, CTs, in my opinion.
Yeah. You know, so, I mean, even though, again, people in the chat are saying it's not narrower, there's like multiple videos sort of confirm that it is slightly narrower, but whatever. I'm interested in...
They've shown you the evidence. Listen and believe.
Yeah, true. I mean, again, maybe all those videos are wrong. But certainly it's a lot taller anyway. But yeah, so the important question is with Dust 2 is... which map is it going to replace? And I know you've made your views about this quite vocal, and said that it should be Nuke, and that Nuke has no place in the map pool. I'm inclined to agree. I think this is one of the few areas we're sort of both in real agreement over this. And actually, we're in a minority. What I noticed was the community definitely don't think Nuke should be taken out. A lot of pros, it wasn't their first call when they talked about maps that should be taken out. There's people going for Cobblestone, people going for Cache, which I was surprised by, people going for Mirage. All of these things I thought were really surprising, but Nukes actually seems to be down the pecking order, and I'm not quite sure why. My justification, my rationale for not wanting Nuke in the map pool is, first of all, I think the kind of double again, I'm thinking about it slightly from a broadcasting perspective on having that depth, that verticality that a lot of maps don't really have in Counter-Strike. I don't think it's been done particularly well on that map. I think it creates issues in terms of when you're looking at the mini-map and that sort of thing. But that's not it, really. For me, it's just that when I watch a game of Nuke, I see every team run the same strats repeatedly, because it seems to be such a basic map almost in terms of its design. there's pretty much default positions every team has to play. You're not going to see like what we used to see on old Nuke back in 1.6, where, for example, people would play a retake strat from the vents. They would literally give up the site, flash out of the vents, come from heaven, and everybody would descend and play a retake site. It's not really viable to do that on this map. So I think there's less options in the CT, for the CTs, what you do tactically. It's got some pretty pronounced choke points, and the importance of outside and ramp room compared to every other area of the map is just insane. So you end up watching pretty much repeats of every game. Like, I'm still struggling. I suppose there is one or two, but I'm really struggling to name off the top of my head a standout game on Nuke that's like one for the ages. You know, we're like, oh, it was amazing, back and forth.
No, the funny thing is, I mean, remember, we've had that map since, I mean, I think it came out late summer of last year. And obviously, I mean, part of the thing, someone had a stat, you know, of how much it had been played, and it was the least played by far out of all the maps in the current map pool. But worse than that, I would agree. That's obviously like that's an abstract point you're making, that there's no classic game on it. But I think it's true. I'm trying to think through all the games I've seen played on it. Listen, there've been a lot of close games. There've been overtime games. There've been very few that were actually good, though.
Oh, yeah. And that was a problem we had in Source. I know, obviously, you didn't watch a lot of Source, but I remember what kind of killed the map competitively and had people complaining about it in Source was it got to a point where it was so CT-sided that you could literally say, if you didn't take T-Pistol, that was it. You probably had lost. I remember watching like comebacks from like 14-1 down and people still winning the game like 16-14 because the shutout was entirely possible on the old CT side. Now, sure, there were some teams that did innovate hugely, in particular the very games under KRL. They used to do a lot of boosts on the outside, and they seem to have a much better handle on how to play that map than any other team. But they were also the best team in the world by some distance and won every LAN for about 2 years. So it's not like if any team was going to do it, you know, it wouldn't be them. They were already way out in front. They probably didn't need to innovate tactically to dominate a map that was already inherently that one-sided. So I don't know. I don't enjoy watching Nuke games. They don't excite me.
Well, here's a factor I brought up in my video, which I think like was one of those ones where every now and then you'll just think up kind of an angle on something that no one else has taken. And so one of the things I remembered thinking about was, because I remember how this discussion began last year, where last year when they were going to bring in Nuke, obviously every time we know there's a map coming in, you discuss what map should go out, right? And so as usual, all the pros did was all the people who have a permaban of like Dust 2 are like, well, Dust 2 must go out. The map is a disgrace to the pool. And then, you know, MSL or whatever will be like, this other map that I don't play, so fucking cash, get that out of the map, you know.
Yeah.
And the problem is, I look past the bias of who they are, and I just try to see, in spite of the bias, do they have a point? Like, do they have any sort of a decent reason? Like, this part's broken, or this is too easy. Well, here's a factor I thought of for Nuke, which I think is a pretty solid one. I thought to myself, there are teams that are pretty good on Nuke, and I made a little list of them. So I had like, you know, Virtus Pro, Astralis, G2. I had a bunch of teams that were good on Nuke, and I just went and looked how many times people ban the map against them and how many times they pick the map as their map in a series. And except for VP, who obviously at the moment is in such terrible situation, they barely have a map pool, you know. No joke, except for VP, everyone else who is really good on Nuke, first of all, doesn't have it banned against them most of the time. And part of the reason why people don't ban it against them is they don't even pick it. Like, G2 in theory is the best Nuke team. That's what most people would say.
Yeah.
Mate, they almost never pick the map as their map in a best of three. Yeah. So that tells me that even the teams that like Nuke, like, you know, want it in the map pool, will not pick it. Now, if there's one thing you can say about pro teams in general, except for the ones that every now and then do a weird pick ban, generally, they do know the maps they're picking and banning. Like, they know what their strongest map is, and they know what their best chance to win is. And when you're in a big semi-final, for example, where you're not even the massive favourite, you're going to pick a map that you think you have the best chance to win on. So if teams that are the best on this map don't want to pick it, and as a result, teams that don't even like it aren't fearing that they have to ban it, that kind of, it's not conclusive proof, but it's certainly pointing you in a direction, you know.
And on top of that, mate, I gotta say, you know, it just, I don't know, like, I see a lot of fans saying, "Oh yeah, we love the map, love that." I mean, people in the chat are saying Nuke's a great map, love it. I'd love to see the statistics of like matchmaking, how many people are playing it. It's garbage, isn't it? I mean,
let's give him a chance, Rich. Like you were saying before with that guy, where you don't just dismiss him, right? So here's what we'll do: we will host a very, very brief live AMA. So anyone who said in the chat that it's a good map, just think up one sentence or two. Just tell us in the chat now why it's a good map. Just give us your best reason. Don't go with all of them. Just give us your best reason it's a good map.
Okay, right. I'm gonna watch this.
Listen, might be some gold here.
So here you go. I love Nuke from 1.6.
That's not really relevant then, is it? So
no.
Go back and play 1.6. Okay.
It does follow it up with, but the Go version is garbage. It's a good map because NIP have made history on it.
I'm out.
Okay.
I'm out already.
Nuke is good because it's not Cobble. It's not bad. It's the best one so far, isn't it?
Okay, come on. There must be something better than that. There's got to be some actual reason that someone's got.
Somebody says, "Cause I'm mentally challenged," meaning them, not me.
Okay.
Still, mate, I'm still scrolling through. This is like pretty like, yep, no, yep, no. These are all like, that it's good because it's the only map where there is a vertical dimension.
Right, but in what way is that? What's good about that?
Plummeting to your death in an airplane has a vertical dimension. What's good thing.
That's like coming in and someone going, "You want to try these sneakers on?" You go, "They're flippers though." And he goes, "Yeah, exactly. Sneakers that work underwater." And you go, "But I'm not going underwater though." He goes, "No, the sneakers have them. Yeezys. They'll be soaking wet soon enough, mate."
So there you go. I mean, no, but there's some other good points though, right? Like for me and you, it should be Nuke, okay? But let's just assume that it isn't going to be because first of all, it's just been brought back into the map pool. Second of all, everyone's going to lie and pretend it's good. That's fine. Whatever. If there's a mad code of silence as to why we can't criticize Nuke, I missed that fucking memo.
I just love also living in a world where we've all become so jaded and bitter about Valve that we're like, well, it should be Nuke. Of course it won't be. They just brought it back in. So they'd never admit they made a mistake and improve the game.
That's not true because historically, didn't they do it with Cobblestone?
They did, but that was very early on. And by the way, there's what you should have said, people in the Twitch chat. Nuke is a good map because it's not official release Cobblestone. That would have been a banger.
That was unreal.
That's the worst competitive map ever forced in the pool.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't great. But then again, what I will say is that original Cobblestone did throw in a hell of a fucking curveball into the Cologne Major, didn't it?
No, that's the reason why. It's the same logic that the other guy had. It did help NIP make history. So
yeah, true. I see.
It's a very important factor to consider. Will this map help NIP make history?
When that map came out, I remember talking to Fetish about that, and he was fucking tilted off the face of the earth. Like, can you imagine one of the archetypal playbook in-game leaders, everything meticulously detailed? He used to run like playbooks with names, and it would be like one would have a name, but then it would have another name if it was a fake. He used to treat it like being a quarterback, and then it was just like Cobblestone. It's like introduced before all these like qualifiers, and he was fucking raging, mate. He's like, it's going to ruin the major.
He was right.
Well, look. Here's what I will say. I remember I was at that major. I was on the desk for that, and like I say, every time Cobblestone came up on the randometer or ended up in the map pool, that series was wide open. Like nobody knew what the fuck was going to happen. So in that sense, I suppose it made some of the earlier games exciting. I'll give it that. So now I'm being like Twitch chat, just like some random stupid defense.
I know, because the problem with that logic, right, is if excitement is the factor that overrides all aspects of like terrible design, appalling balance, no reliable strategies, then you should just have a map where what happens is randomly, like some of the blocks just disappear and there's lava under there. And so if someone's just running over that, just get burned alive. And that's exciting as fuck, right?
Now you're talking to be like the old Aztec with the
and there'll be one where, have environmental aspects. A gust of wind just comes along and it's really hard to walk up the cobblestone thing. Oh, bloody hell. You know when you're trying to walk up here like it's wind. That's straight fire. I hope Valve isn't listening because you get so scared they're going to implement this shit, aren't you?
But anyway, so if it's not Nuke, which we think it won't be Nuke, what would it be? Because we've got Cobblestone. I think people are kind of jaded with that and think it's like got a bunch of problems still. Maybe it should go out for its third remake. I
think Cobblestone should just be taken to the fucking glue factory at this point in time. Like, forget remaking it. Like, they've tried a bunch of that. It just doesn't work, that map. I think, here's the thing. I don't think it's appalling to watch. It has some good games. But I do think it's not a good map generally. I mean, it is very limited. So I'd be.
But if you look at the data, though, it's actually, I think, the most balanced map in terms of sides, having the upper hand and stuff. I think somebody did like the data and extrapolated it. So in that sense, in terms of if the design philosophy was for CTs and Ts to sort of have equal opportunities, that is how it plays out. Even if it doesn't feel that way.
The problem here is, right, for these sort of like super specific discussions, you'd have to do the data research. So for example, I'd have to look this up. I haven't researched this, but if that meant, for example, that actually the best T-side Cobblestone team in the world don't win the T-side a lot, I'd probably say that's a flaw, because ideally you shouldn't be balanced among all the teams. Just the concept is in general, you might want that. I personally don't want it, but, if you indeed do.
Yeah, so I don't know. But a lot of people are telling me, players, they're going, it'll be Cash. It'll definitely be Cash that's going out. People are giving me the nudge in the ribs. And again, it makes no sense to me. I think Cash is a super balanced map. I think it's quite brilliant in its simplicity. I know it's not a Valve design. It was FM Pone, wasn't it? Who
and Volcano as well, yeah.
Or FMP1. Yes. I'm sure I pronounced his name incorrectly.
I think it's Pone.
Yeah, it is porn, right? Good. I think it's really simple and quite well designed, and I enjoy watching Cash games. I never liked it when it first came out. Again, took me a while to warm up. I think because it was a little bit simple. But then obviously, again, once people started deploying all these great tactics and smokes and flashes and boosts and this, you actually realize that quite a simple map can have a lot of depth to it. And as a result, it's been one of those maps that's fluctuated in the meta, having like T sides and CT sides. So I like it. I'd be quite sad to see it go. But a lot of people seem to think it is going to be Cash that bows out. And I hope that isn't true, because I think that would be a great loss. There's definitely maps that should be on the chopping block before that.
See, the thing is, while it's true, it doesn't feel like Cash gets played a lot. But first of all, it gets played way more than Nuke. And then, I also agree. I think it's actually a pretty decent map. Like, I don't have any problem with it. I think, in fact, what I like about it is people always draw the contrast between that and Dust 2, because in matchmaking, it has a similar kind of just, fragging element too. But I actually think in pro player, the difference between that and Dust 2 is I think you can do a lot more tactics on Cash if you want to, if you actually apply that effort, as seen when some of these really good teams play it. So I think Cash is fine. Don't see any problem with it. I mean, the only other one people mention, usually just by process of elimination, is Mirage is one of the only maps that has never been reworked. That's a Valve map.
Yeah, and that's the other one.
I just don't see the logic of that one personally, because it's not like we have to rework maps. No, I think Mirage is fine. And in fact, if you look at the competitive meta, not only has Mirage always been played, at the moment, I'd go ahead and guess it's the most played map. It feels like everyone's willing to play that as like a third map. No one bans it anymore. I think that's a pretty solid map. So the problem here is, like, whenever you talk about a map that should be removed, I think you just got to look how many have the worst factors. So for me, I think it's Nuke. But I think the case for Cobble's not terrible. I think you can make it your own case for that.
Yeah, I mean, then the other problem we've got is, like, again, to the argument, should we have maps coming out at all? I'd love it if we didn't, honestly. Yeah. I'd like if alongside a remake of Dust 2, another map came in. And then all of a sudden, it was like, maybe you get an extra ban. And an extra ban each in a competitive environment to make it work and balance out. Because that's the problem, isn't it? You can't just introduce one more map because of the current way we work our vetoes. It would have to come as a pair.
The problem is that gets really, really tough because, like, for example, Like that, the problem is when you do that, okay, you're not just adding a ban that someone can use to take out a certain map. Then what will happen is that you're changing the dynamic of the veto. So, for example, some amazing team, like whoever it might be, SK FaZe, now they just go against an underdog and ban both their best maps. You know, like there are other like kind of unforeseen circumstances that could happen. That could you wouldn't know until you played it out. You know, you'd have to see it happen a few times to know that this would work. But I could see some potential issues with doing that. So. I agree. It's a tough situation in general. I don't mind the current approach. It's just that personally, what I don't like about the current approach is that the map always does get reworked and brought back. I think sometimes some of these maps should just get taken out, killed, and try a new map. You know,
maybe that's. Yeah, I suppose that's another way to get the variety. Now, the other thing, of course, is timing. We got a major coming in January. If the map has gone into beta in October. When's it getting fucking rolled out?
Well, that's also my other philosophy on this, which I think you would think this is an easy one to get Valve on board with, but for some reason they don't seem to agree. I would make it so that if you're ever going to bring in a new map, it comes in right after the major. So the concept is each major cycle is a map pool. And we are playing and practicing this map pool. And then after a major, we know one of the maps goes out, a new one appears, but it's because it's at the beginning of the major cycle, no one's worried about how much time have we got. We haven't had time to play it. I think that would be a more logical way to do it. I can't really see many points against that.
No, actually, yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, it's kind of similar to, you know, sort of if you think about patches with League of Legends and stuff, they generally tend not to patch around like major tournaments and stuff, and they'll go through several smaller patches, quick updates before, you know, like they don't drop a patch 3 weeks before Worlds or whatever, you know, because I think they have in the past.
They did once. It was terrible. Yeah, but yeah, in general, they know what they're doing with that. Yeah,
I mean, far be it from me to imply Riot actually know what they're doing. You know, I'm definitely not saying that, but I think they learned a valuable lesson.
Yeah, but they know that all their critics will eventually just die of cancer, and then we're Gucci.
That's
not a bad reference. Yeah,
that's a good reference. I don't know how many people on this podcast will get it, but good for you. So anyway, look, let's talk about some of the other stuff that's been going on. I guess we'll talk about the minor stuff now. The teams that got through in the European minor, because there's some big names missing. I mean, that's actually the bigger talking point. Really, is the way the minor sort of panned out. So first of all, and again, I did chief this from the game will restart in 1 second. Or Peter from HLTV. I know you and him have butted heads, but just bear with me. We'll just get through this segment.
I wouldn't call him a butt head, but you know, that's your prerogative.
Right. So they had some teams that were invited to the minor qualifier: NIP, Heroic, Hellraisers, and LDLC that didn't get through. And then there were some teams that just entered the open qualifier and had that harder road, and that did make it. And it's Extatus, the ex-Outlaws as they're known currently, AGO, and Pride. And again, it's weird. I can't really read the community on this, because a lot of people are going, oh, it's great to see these smaller teams coming through. A lot of people are kind of implying that, I don't know,
these teams are going to be really good, and now they've got the chance. No.
I mean, people obviously are saying that, but that's not where I'm going with it. I think some people are kind of implying that, you know, this was like an open and level playing field. I'll tell you, if you're like Heroic and you've just got back from, you know, literal Heroics at E-League, if you're like LDLC, just finished some mad IEM Auckland qualifier as well, have been playing pretty constantly. If you're NIP as well, you know, these teams have had some pretty packed and busy schedules. And then even though they're invited, you're still kind of put into an open qualifier. And some of these teams that have kind of come through the open qualifier, they're leisurely playing online matches as and when, probably relish the opportunity to have some extra games. I don't think it's necessarily the same, and far be it from me to suggest the only reason these teams won is because of a packed schedule. But I don't know, I look at those names and like, I'm going to say it, like, congratulations on qualifying to each and every one of them. But it does kind of feel that everything in the whole world with the schedule coming out, it's like almost like things made it easier for these upsets. And you know yourself, when you have these online matches, you do get these aberrations and anomalies, and you do get teams that probably wouldn't do well at an actual tournament somehow creep through because of the nature of online Counter-Strike. So I looked at some of those names there, and again, I'm super happy for all of them. But it doesn't scream to me this is a super deep field or these teams have entered the tier 1 of Counter-Strike with these results. Just kind of, again, speaks to the problems of running a massive open online qualifier for a prestigious tournament.
Plus, it's just another example for me of where whenever you see like people don't make it through a qualifier, one of the things I usually do is I rush and I look at the bracket. Who did they play? What went on there? Was it like a bad draw or something? This is a Swiss system. And again, it's just the standard Swiss system where you start it and then you set it going and you never reseed, you never do any of that sort of stuff. And you go and look, and it does feel like some people got way harder routes and some people got weight, which is just a problem of running these Swiss systems with no reseeding. Because, for example, when you look at some of the teams that didn't go, like Heroic and NiP, etc., well, part of the reason why is because Heroic and NiP, like between them, like Heroic played NiP, for example, and then Heroic themselves had to play Envious and lost them. So some of the top teams there are playing each other, which takes away some of your tournament lives. Meanwhile, like you look at who Optic beat, they beat that AGO team, they beat Team 5, and they beat Ecstasis. Like, okay, all right. Not that sick of a run of teams, though. And also, I have to say, when I look at this one, and at the top of the Swiss system, I obviously see Space Soldiers. Could you just fuck right off? I actually hate Space Soldiers. You know why, Rich? Because all they do is wreck people online and then go to the LAN and do fucking nothing. It's a fucking joke.
Well, surely there's worse offenders.
No, because here's the thing about them. They actually legit aren't a good team. Like, here's the difference, okay? I don't actually blame Envious for wrecking all those online qualifiers and then not being good at the LAN. Because, right, at the end of the day, they did win the qualifier. So they not only put out, like, G2, but they go on and win the qualifier and go to the LAN, and then they do badly. Space Soldiers, usually, their MO normally, is they wreck a couple of good teams in the qualifier and then don't get the qualifier spot anyway. And lose to a worse team that none of those teams have lost to. So they're literally like Turkish cock teas. It's like Turkish. They're Turkish, aren't they? So I took Turkish Delight and made it into a new product.
Cock teas doesn't even sound like Delight.
No, yeah, I know, but because it's delightful to be cock teased until you don't cook. Also, they are just cock teasing us, aren't they? Because they're beating all these top teams. People are like, maybe they're really good. Then they go to the LAN. Surprise, surprise, reality.
All right, but here's the thing. What I will say is, like, sure, when you've got those teams that kind of do the upsets and spoil things and whatnot, like, I don't think the story of Space Soldiers is really about Space Soldiers, the team. I think it's interesting to see where some of those players will end up. Like, I'd like to see Xantares go to a mainstream European team and have that opportunity, and like see how well he actually does. I'd like to see if he can apply some of his prodigious talent. Sure. Online at a much higher level, Well,
that's they just stick in this team, fucking people up halfway through brackets, and then not going and doing anything at the LAN.
Yeah, okay, and yeah. I mean, I get it. It's not like they're dodging the LAN though.
The are as much as they're losing. So I guess in that sense, in this sense, they didn't. They've made it there. Great, they'll be at the EU minor, but. Like, I'm essentially, in general, it's obviously not their fault. They have to do what they have to do. But in general, I hate onliners, mate. Like, I hate the fact that Xantares just sits on like a fucking mad rate in his entire life because he barely goes to LANs, goes to tier 3 LANs, and then just still gets to sit on some mental rating. Like, I don't see what the point is.
Well, hasn't he always maintained that there's been like all these like travel problems, which, look, I can totally believe it. Like, let's say, for example, apparently it came out today that because some people were speculating, well, because of this, like Trump, Turkey, apparently they're not issuing visas from Turkish embassies now. Trump's just going wild as per. He's actually said apparently they've already got visas, like extended visas, and they can definitely go to America. So they said that to sort of placate.
They're not getting through the EU minor, so I wouldn't worry about that.
No. But but it is interesting because I think they've had some travel issues in the past and whatnot. So I mean, I don't know. There's teams. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm kind of going, can you go a bit easy on these, fine Turkish players? I'm about to get tilted off the face of the earth in the North American qualifiers when we get there. But look, so if we just look at the teams in the Euro qualifier, and I guess as well, I'm trying to make excuses for teams like NIP and Heroic not getting through. In reality, if you look at what Optic did, Optic fucking have just literally, Freiburg's hands are dropping off. he's got fucking leprosy or something because he's fucking played so much online Counter-Strike. He's literally said he's given himself like carpal tunnel or something. Sure. And they got through. They're there. They're in the minor qualifier. I mean,
here's the thing. I will say, if you look at the teams that are in the minor qualifier, they are all obviously you're going to go ahead and take out Godsend, Optic, and Envious because we know all those players. They've all been in top teams. But every other team, literally, none of them are nobodies. That we know them all. The Pride's team already is half decent. We saw them in the past. Weren't they the team that I forget, but they had like some decent results at the end of last year, I think. The AGO team, a bunch of them, you know them in the past anyway. They were even in majors in the past. Yeah. The Xtaxas guys, right? You don't know a lot of them, but if you just go ahead and notice that, some of them, I think one of them's played in those teams that had Sticko and Zero and Oscar and stuff. And I think the Frozen guy has always been known as some 15-year-old.
Frozen is it that devil guy with the 7 in his
And then
name?
The Outlaws guys, a bunch of them were the guys that were in that GG play team, which were always online warriors. We're always wrecking people online, and we're actually half decent for a couple of lands in 2015. So, these are known players. It's not ridiculous that they could beat the Nips and Heroics of the world. It's just unfortunate because obviously these are all online qualifiers. And here's the thing, I don't blame the concept in as much as, obviously you just can't afford to drop down to a massive open online qualifier into a closed qualifier, can you? If you do that, you are at risk of losing no matter who you are.
Yeah, and with all the problems the qualifiers had, it probably feels kind of more of an issue that some of these big names didn't make it through. I've got to be honest, though, again, it just looks like, with the names that are there, it just looks like a super weak field in a lot of ways. You look at say, for example, Envious are in there. You got the star power of Optic, Godsend. Once you get past that, the rest of the teams feel decidedly tier 2 or tier 3,
Put it this way. Let's be absolutely realistic, right? First of all, if Nip had made this LAN, they would be a favourite to win it. They would actually be one of the favourites. And if Heroic had made it there, now Heroic's a bit more up and down, but Heroic would have a very good chance also at getting one of the spots. So that's why it's obviously going to be a weaker field,
But I mean, that being said, right, do you remember the last sort of minors and stuff we had? And we were like, these are the strongest minors we've ever had. Look at these names that are going to be involved and all of that, right? That's what we were saying. And now it looks like, I suppose, on paper at least, it looks like we've kind of regressed a little bit because this doesn't look like a great field, but actually it's because there's some massive names conspicuous by their absence. I don't understand why that is. I don't understand if teams are just fucked or, from playing too much Counter-Strike.
That actually happened last time as well. Last time, both Nip and Heroic failed to make the minor. Sure. I mean, unfortunately, here's one of the things that I will say is worth having a discussion about. Right, this is where it's actually sort of flawed that you have an identical qualification system for all regions because listen, I don't care if people are like, how can you know if Europe is better? It's just a fact, isn't it? It's almost inarguable. I could do all the scientific research you want to show that Europe is a significantly better region on all metrics, yet they have the exact same online qualification system into a minor, into a qualifier as Asia does, where at the Asia minor, the team that finishes 5th there would never even make any other minor. Put it that way. That's not even outrageous. So as much as listen, you can't, there's always going to be flaws, but I will say the fact that team at least gets to play on LAN at its minor already gives that region a massive edge. If you're Renegades, you're fucking laughing. You're going to be at every one of those minors and you're going to have a shot every time you go to the major qualifier. Whereas, as we've seen here, if you're Nip, actually every time you try now, you have to get through this mad field of people who can all potentially beat you just to get to the minor, then to get a chance to play on LAN. So I don't know what the solution to that is. I'm not saying I have one. It's obviously kind of a harsher situation for Europeans.
Yeah. So, I think, and I'm obviously intrigued to see what happens. For me, I think Optic have got to be the boys now. It's, I'll be backing them to do well there, and hopefully they can get through to the major. They'll have to go the scenic route for sure. But over in the NA qualifiers, I mean, it's not all that bad.
It is for one reason, though, right?
Yeah. You know what's coming, I think. CLG are there. It's all right, I suppose. They're about a minor level team now. Liquid, obviously, expect them to
NRG as usual
through
on the internet. Very much the envious of their region.
They're no Splice, mate. They're no Splice. Splice are out of fucking control. You got fucking, Roker and the boys, mental team. Complexity, Yeah, that's quite a surprise because, again, Complexity has become almost like a patchwork of like just a team with no identity. I think like Def and Android are like two long-standing players now. You've got PTR in there and Slemmy.
Here's a great game for you, right? Are you ready? Yeah. What you do is you get someone who loves to watch like high-level CS. They only watch tier 1 LANs, and so
you mean you?
Obviously me. You get someone like that, and you just make sure that they know vaguely some of these other teams, but they haven't watched them much, right? And the game show goes like this. It's called Who Does He Play For? Complexity, Splice, or NRG, and you just put up a name with no other information, and you have to guess who he plays for. I think a lot of people would fail that game.
No, quite
including
possibly.
Some of the owners of those teams. Obviously, obvious joke there. Don't know why I'm walking that one back after all the other shit. But why am I going easy on that?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. Yeah, fuck them all. That's more like it, mate. You tell him. But here's what I will say. NRG, for example, they did get one thing right, it seems. And picking up that Cirque, we talked about him on the podcast before, and I was like, why are you picking up, this sort of Bulgarian guy that seems to have been cast off by another? Actually, it's one of the areas I think NRG have done great work in. Like Breezy, I think, is like really good at the moment. Like, I know it's not a popular thing to say. Yeah, sure. But I think get him to a LAN, and he did all right actually at I'm trying to think what LAN it was I saw him at. Was it DreamHack Atlanta? Might have been. Anyway, doesn't matter. I think he's one of the players that I think he'd do all right on a decent sized team. And this Cirque guy looks to be a really good pickup and worth all of the wrangling and stuff. So
a lot of potential for puns with his name as well. Yeah. Was that actually cut out, or was that ever left in?
I can't even remember.
I think I left that in, actually.
Okay. That was straight fire.
That's one way of word, isn't it? That's one way of word, isn't it, mate? So anyway, that's all well and good. Happy to see NRG there. Obviously, other guys over there, happy for them. Luminosity got through, obviously, Showtime's team and the boys, all great. Rise Nation, bunch of new and emerging names in the North American scene. Pretty happy to see that, actually, Okay. But then there's one team. There's one team, a team of French Canadians, shall we say.
By the way, here's the thing, Richard. Obviously, I don't know how much you followed games in Source that were from NA, but I'll just go ahead and give everyone a little bit of context to the history of CS, okay? Yeah. So how in Europe, mid-tier German teams in Counter-Strike have a terrible reputation for being blatant cheaters online. Like, people who cheat get banned. People who cheat get to the LAN, don't turn up to the LAN or magically play bad on the LAN. That is like French Canadians in the North American scene, basically. It's specifically the French ones. I don't know why. Yep. Make your own conclusions about the French mixed with North American people. It's not a good mix, is it? It's not a good look. But they are basically the Germans of North America.
All right. It's good. Thanks for that theory. But no, they do. Those players alone in that region definitely had a terrible reputation for being cheaters. Everybody knows what we're talking about, whether the stereotypes are accurate or not. Everybody used to be like, if you were getting wrecked by a German, he's definitely cheating, isn't he? Same if you're in North America, he's a French Canadian, he's definitely cheating. You know how it is. But anyway, what I'm saying here is that this team let's be clear about this team. All of these players pretty much started playing in like 2016. They don't really have any pedigree there. And of course, at the center, of the team, like a open festering wound, is of course Zabrosa. And I can't believe,
he's back, is he?
But here's the thing, they were playing this game because they beat Immortals.
Okay.
Now, understand that I'm not saying in the same way we've just talked about all these other teams, you can't have a bad day at the office online. Immortals still have two of the major finalists, and everybody on that team is vastly experienced and has accomplished something. Even the shit players they've added, they're certainly shit in a way I would rather be than anyone on the French-Canadian roster. And I understand, obviously, that, yes, young teams and young talented teams do emerge. Understand, I've not criticised Rise Nation. I've just sang the praises of Cirque and Breezy. I'm not against new names by any stretch of the imagination. I'm the guy who went and batted for Rops when all of the pros wanted him kicked out of FPL. So I'm not just some guy who's like, fuck all these names I don't know from 5 years ago. They must be cheaters. That's not what I'm about. And there'll be people on the Reddit thread when this comes out saying that. But the reality is, fuck this team and everything about it. I'm not on board with it at all. And here's the thing: they were like, as they were rolling, and they steamrolled Immortals on train. As they were doing it, you could hear them on comms, like laughing and doing all these like mad wall bangs.
Have I missed something? Why on Wikipedia does it seem like you only have to lose twice in this Swiss system instead of 3 times?
I don't know.
Because in the EU1, it was just a normal Swiss system, I think, where you lose 3.
I think this question got answered and it was just due to sign-ups or something. I think there's a lot of people like dropping out and stuff, so I think they amended
that doesn't help, though, because then you have to just lose twice and you're out.
Yeah. But I think that's the reason. No doubt chat will correct us in a minute. But like seriously, and they were laughing, and like you could hear Sabrosa going like, I'm done, fuck playing with this cheater and stuff like this over the comms. And I just thought, are you like
well, if he retires, he can always become an admin for Sevo, can't he? Or maybe the Immortals Twitter guy.
I was just like, fuck off. Like it's a joke. It's a joke that there isn't one pro that'll go and bat for Sabrosa, you'll notice. That I haven't certainly heard him. And some of the shit that was going on makes
the circumstantial evidence around him was so bonkers as well.
Yeah, the clip on Mirage is one of the most mental things I've ever seen. Like,
no, but that stuff like think about what your alibi is if you're Sabrosa. No, someone just ages ago on a cheat forum signed up with my God-given name before I was a pro player and before anyone would know me and therefore know to do that, and then made comments that would be in line with what I would make if indeed that was me, because it clearly was me. I mean, it wasn't.
I know. Definitely wasn't on a cheat site.
So ridiculous.
Of course it was. And like I said, some of the clips I saw were just so insane. They made like 0 sense. They made Flusher's clips look just like
Flusher's just like, who the fuck is this guy?
Oh, here we go. Sam's digging it out and playing it. Yeah. Just watch it on the stream because we'll be a bit of a hind for commentary. But it's just so mental. There's this one where he does this mad like 360 flip onto a guy on a box behind him while he's blind. It's like it's the maddest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Just for like no reason, one tap that guy through Skadoodle in the head through a box. Straight.
I mean, here's the thing though. Whenever
this is pretty nice the way he keeps looking at that guy in the fucking ticket booth as well.
Whenever you talk about like, oh, did he look at him for no reason? You can't say that, Duncan, because then someone will go, well, he obviously heard him, and if you look at the trajectory of the smoke that was thrown,
why does he do that? Why does he do that?
Yeah, no, this is the one.
This is that 180.
This is that 180 is the one. This is the one I'm talking about. It is the most maddest thing I've ever seen in the history of the game. That right there is just so unreasonable, and I can't understand any possible excuse. But here's the mad part: I think that happened at a LAN, so that's the issue you've got with it, isn't it? Because then you really are.
Then he's cheating on LAN. Then problem solved.
Yeah, I mean, look, put it this way: I don't feel bad bringing this up. Because obviously people were saying, well, first of all, there's several things. Multiple pros have said this. And then second of all, it's not like CLG got anywhere.
Yes.
It's not like, I mean, even in that fucking clip, they've just been wrecked 16-2.
Okay.
So it doesn't even make sense,
There's one thing I think sucks though, right? It does tilt me, right, that basically, aside from DreamHack Winter 2014, where some pros did go on record like, I think player X cheats,
sure.
I've always thought he was dodgy, except for that one period in history, none of these motherfuckers will ever go on record, even if privately they'll tell you they do. And here's the thing, while I realise politically you don't gain anything from it, it's just kind of fucked up, because you think about how the modern world is, right? Dude, there are pro athletes who believe in every conspiracy under the board. Some of them think that 9/11 was an inside job, or that fucking, the Earth's hollow, or, here's the thing. Yeah, people might make fun of you for it. Yeah. But if you really think it, it's not like it's the end of the world for you to say it. But I just find it kind of messed up that there's not even a couple of big pros. Like, here's the thing as well. You don't have to be like making a mad claim, but if someone who had a lot of respect and a lot of cash just came out and said, I think this guy is bullshit, right? Yeah, nothing's going to be done about it. It's just going to be your opinion, but it's kind of fucked up, isn't it? Because we're never going to get to the bottom of any of that shit.
No, and we're not. And that's the thing. So I'll definitely put the caveat here. I'm not saying Sabrosa cheated. I'm not saying that at all. I would never accuse anyone of cheats without 100% evidence. But if anyone was absolute grade A bullshit, it was this fucker, you know. And the idea that he's playing in this team that's like beating fucking Immortals, and
I love this clip as well. It's fucking metal, isn't it?
Yeah. This was a good one, just all over the place again. You know, and look, I get it. You can't ban people just on these. You got to put the faith in the anti-cheat, the LAN environment. I totally get it. I totally understand what people are saying.
Or you could just go full Stasi East Germany style and read all of their conversations with everyone in their life until eventually you find out that they indeed are cheating.
Yes,
in many ways,
LPK.
In many ways, yes, LP Kane was the man for the job.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, look, and I don't want to sound like Dan M either, because I see a lot of very reasonable and explainable clips which are just stupid. Like, oh, look at this lock. And it's like, obviously you would put your crosshair there in that particular moment. Obviously you're turning away from a flash that you probably heard primed. You know, there's so many explanations for a lot of clips that people call out. Sabrosa's clips were, for that brief period of time, incredibly frequent. Understand that even Flusher, people went back to get all the clips we had and went back 6 months to get a handful of, like, you know, I'd probably say, what was it, like 5-6 really weird clips, really fishy clips.
From hundreds of LAN games as well.
Yeah. Sabrosa managed to go past that in fucking moments and had this weird inexplicable video of him on Twitch where he was literally doing what looked to be calibrating his aim lock. And then a few NA pros came out and were going, no, look, I can replicate that. And it wasn't quite the same. It wasn't a replication. So, you know, look, I've always been of the opinion that you will find players who cheat and are bullshit. And eventually people realize it and they shun them and they ostracize them and they don't get opportunities in pro teams, like the way Sabrosa was just kind of quietly pushed out of CLG, despite the fact that actually he wasn't one of the worst performers or anything. It was just kind of, yeah, we're just going to get rid of Sabrosa. And everyone went, yep, good. Right. But here's what you've got here is, once you've got that reputation and that mud on you, right? Like, the only other people you can play with are other suspect bullshit cunts. You know, you can only go to LAN like so many times and flop before you're with all the other onliners. And that's where Sabrosa's found himself. And this French Canadians team are just a joke, honestly. I'll go on record now, and the boys, look, I'll eat fucking humble pie with the best of them. It's not often I do this, but if they can replicate half of what they've done in these qualifiers at LAN, I'll proclaim them to be the next big thing. Like, I just don't buy it, mate. And I think they're the ones that are just like, I don't know, they've kind of soured the whole qualification process a little bit for me.
And wasn't there a team that got eliminated that we should talk about?
Well, we're going to talk about NIP, yeah.
No, obviously. In the America Minor, Immortals didn't make it.
Yeah, obviously. Well, yeah, we can. I suppose we can talk about that. It looks increasingly, with them even entering the qualifier, that they're not going to do any fuckery and hold Lucas and Henny to their contracts, and they're forfeited their spot in the Legends system, which I think is still a travesty. I can't get on board with it. But yes, obviously, thanks to those French Canadians who were literally laughing and, wow, this is so easy to beat players who've made it to a major final online. It's so easy. You know, Immortals aren't there, and even Bolts put a tweet up going, Sabrosa won't show half the shit he did online at LAN, and people were like, haha, he's just joking. Brazilians don't joke about that shit, mate.
Wait a minute. Please tell me that is not what anyone said, because I am, to this day, people still claim that FNS wasn't joking. You know that?
Yeah. Obviously, the Brazilian fans, you know, have said, that this is just a joke. But I don't think he's joking. I know Bolt's pretty well. He's quite a quiet, softly spoken guy.
Where's all his banter on Twitter? What, he's just joking now?
Yeah.
Face.
Yeah. So, But yeah, so he said he won't do it at LAN, he won't replicate it. And
it's one of the biggest travesties of all time, though. Make it to the final of a major. You have done literally nothing wrong. The Org's done nothing wrong. You've done nothing wrong. Because one of your players is a dickhead, and then the other players inexplicably demand to play with him, you have now had your major slot, which you earned, taken from you so that they can go and play for some Org that never invested anything into them at the major. Brilliant. Well, how's that fair in any level?
No, it's not. It's not at all. And meanwhile, the team seems to have been announced that's going to get that major spot. So a couple of things on that. I mean, first of all, I guess I'll just ask you the question in regards to Immortals. Like, they've confirmed their lineup now. Is there any way back for them as a force? Through the power of friendship and hard work, can they get back to like being a serious CS team?
Doesn't look like it, because unfortunately, the players they've picked up, as people have referenced, especially ZQS, just probably aren't good. Like the Horvey guy, listen, maybe he turns out to be good. There has to be some reason they wanted him even before they got KNG. But beyond that, they're in a bad spot where they've just had the talent stripped out, and now they're in such a bad position that apparently they can't even buy the good players that are in Brazil. So I don't really see how you get out of that situation. You know, they're sort of like the position Navi's in, but even worse, because now you'd have to pay a lot for players we've never heard of, you know.
And just to add extra salt to the wound, I think it was Team One, the team they were going to buy players from, that got the final spot in the Americas minor. So obviously 2 of the players they were interested in buying originally have got there as well. So it kind of is like this extra layer. I'm inclined to agree with you. I think Immortals are going to have to go a real scenic route all around the houses to get back to where they were. I don't know how they can do it. I think they've literally got to wait for maybe SK Gaming to break apart, or or some Luminosity fuckery, because there's upgrades on Luminosity for what they brought in.
I mean, here's what I would do logically, right? Either yes, it's possible SK might kick someone, we don't know who, but whoever it is, you definitely want, and if he's available out of contract, he'd be your first choice, right? That's one route. The other route is you've got to literally wait out the contracts of all these other good players. Like if that Maluk guy who they wanted from Team One, you just wait till his contract runs out, and then you'd buy him as a free agent. That's the only route, because at this point in time, like, put it this way, if I was the advisor and I was brought in to consult to this team, to Immortals, the first thing I'd tell them is, listen, I realise by the decision you've made, you sort of have to back Steel and Bolts here, because the PR hit would be such a nightmare. But if you could in any way not do that, I would tell you to drop all these teams and get someone from another country, because I can't see how you get out of this mess, you know. You've sort of had so many bad things happen in a row that I don't know how this fixes itself, except for some of those situations where essentially you have to frame it as someone else has to do you a favour and make those players available.
Yeah. So that's the America's qualifier. But yeah, we should talk about NIP not getting through the European qualifier as well. I mean, so we go from a team that's obviously won a major and has all this like prestige, and there's even won tournaments in the not too distant past. Now they can't get through an online qualifier to even get to a fucking minor. So what the fuck is? I mean, like, I don't know how far NIP have to like. Look, I don't even think it's the players per se. I know that's going to sound crazy. Right. You're probably thinking I'm crazy. I still believe that 5 can work.
Oh, I think that team's fine. Listen, NIP is no longer in a place where it's even vaguely plausible that they should be an elite team. No, absolutely not. Like if I had to bet my money now, keeping like at least 3 of these players, I'd go ahead and say, right, they'll never ever be top 5 again. That just seems unreasonable at the moment, you know. But when I've seen that 5-man lineup play on the lands, they look pretty decent, actually. Like they look like they could be hovering around the bottom of the top 10, getting the odd upset. Maybe they get a map they're really good on, as we saw recently when they were good on Cash. You know, I could see a few of these factors go into play. So yeah, the fact that they can never qualify for majors anymore, it's a massive blow, isn't it?
But yeah, but they've got to do something about the fucking tactical approach to the game. It's gone on too long. It's got to be said. But you know, Richard, I love you. I'm not talking to myself here. I haven't gone full now.
Someone edit that. Yeah. Richard, I love you.
I said, Richard, I bloody love you. Right, it's not that, mate. Richard obviously meaning exist. I do love you. I go back a distance with this guy, you know, really like got lots of good memories. It's not like show or bullshit. Don't just bump into him at events. He's a really cool dude. But as an in-game leader, he's never fucking sold me. And lately, his individual level of performance has been off. He's been one of the kind of weaker links in the chain, just in terms of raw stats. And the tactics are just so off the pace. They're just not even, the vetoes again. Stop with the cash. How long has it been since don't play me on cash, motherfucker? How long has it been? Fucking half a century.
Couple of years now, yeah.
You know what I mean? You stop picking it. They keep getting wrecked by dog shit teams on cash. You can't play it. Where's the adult in the room that's going to stop the children running amok and I'm drinking bleach, daddy. Like, stop them. Stop them. It's too much, mate. And they're like, I don't understand. He's got this like mad, like he just seems to have ultimate autonomy over like everything he does. And like everybody knows it's wrong. And I don't know if people aren't telling him. I don't know if it's like, right, okay, can the rest of the NIP guys just do this for me? Because obviously I know you all. So Patrick, Chris, all the boys, the new guys that brought in, just one day when he turns up for work, just be in a room, sat in a circle and just say, Richard, we are here to talk about your tactical problem and how it hurts us all. And we're doing this because we care about you. And have a full-scale intervention for him because this isn't fucking working. And if this isn't a wake-up call, like you're not at a fucking minor, you couldn't get through a minor losing to dog shit teams because your veto's all out of whack, your tactics all out of whack. I don't know what it is. Apparently, Threat's still on the books. Well, what the fuck's he doing? And is it a case of he is doing lots? Because again, I know him. He's a fucking top lad. I know he does a lot of work or has done in the past. Is it he's doing the work and Richard's deciding to veto him? Like, what is going on in that team? And where is the grown-up in the room to say enough is a fucking enough? They need new ideas. Like, here's the thing. You don't have a natural go-to for an in-game leader, I would say. So it can't be, can't be Forrest, can't be Get Right, can't be Rez, can't be Draken, and we're definitely saying it can't be Exist. And obviously with the current system of you can't have a caller outside of the game, NIP have got a fundamental problem. Someone is going to have to pick up the slack, but somebody else has got to fucking have a go. And so even if it's just somebody gives Exist a playbook and tells him you absolutely cannot deviate from this, or does the vetoes on his behalf, because I can't stand seeing an IP this way, mate. I know you love it because you're fans, but...
No, but here's the thing. Obviously, some of those players I want to see succeed again. I want to see them at LANs and at majors, etc. But unfortunately, this has always been a problem that these NIP guys have had, which is that for whatever reason, you're never even allowed to speculate or conceive of Get Right and Forrest leaving NIP. So we're always in this situation where you must go with a similar core. As you've seen, those players apparently refuse to play without Exist. I don't know why, but they do. And so since we can never bring in a new in-game leader, they're just trapped in Exist hell, aren't they? Existential hell or something.
And I'm sure you'll make a video.
I'll do something about that.
Yeah. No problem. Right? But here's the thing: when you think about it, right, that they've brought in two players that I rate. I see a lot of people in the chat. Again, it's interesting, isn't it? How I'm not supposed to know about games, but I've watched Rez go from being when he first burst into the team, he was dropping mad numbers. Now he isn't, and he isn't because he's trying to be a more complete player and enable some of the people around him. If you watch the positions he's playing on the maps, he's holding more defensive angles, not pushing. He's standing with flashes out to help his teammates with peaks and maneuvers and rotates, and like he is trying to be a support player in that team. I don't think necessarily he should. I think at this point, if Exist is going to be bad anyway and throw out bad tactics and bad vetoes and put everyone in a bad position, I'd just be like, nah, you know what, mate, fuck it, kick me, kick me, or you be the fuck it, you do the donkey work, because I'm the cunt who's got to dig us all out of this hole now, But Draken as well, people are going, oh, he whiffs so many easy shots. Mark my words, I'll say it now, right? Draken, if he can keep his head, will be a fucking... In 2018, he'll be a boy to watch, like 100%. I'm going on record as saying that. He's definitely got the talent to do it. Once he nails the consistency, top 5 open, no problem. So I think he'll get there. For me, everything that's going wrong... Think about it as well. They replaced Freiburg. Freiburg was meant to be this, like, dead weight in the team. And he can't do anything. He can't in-game lead. He can't frag. It's sad, but we got to get rid of him. And everyone kind of went when Freiburg went, didn't they? They were like, yeah, it's time, actually. Nobody was making the case for Freiburg to stay. Nobody did. Not even Adam himself, I don't think. Now he's gone to Optic, become a successful in-game leader, got them to the same fucking minor that NIP couldn't get to. Freiburg definitely wasn't a problem, or the problem at least. So there's obviously something deeper in NIP they've got to figure out.
I mean, part of the problem though is that if you know anything about that team and its history, they almost. Here's one of my theories, right, as to why I think they've stuck together so long, is because I actually think as a team they don't often have these discussions. I think they just can somehow all obliviously live in this world where it's all going to be fine. And because I have to give them credit, like VP style, they have time and time again pulled himself out of a hole, gotten a new player, improved things. So in a way, they've had the confirmation bias that everything they're doing is right. It's just that now, when they're in a scenario where they're like the stockbroker who every pick is wrong, you have to just have like almost an intervention level thing where it's like, this has to stop. Because like, for example, at the moment, the Swedish, I made a video about this a little bit ago. The Swedish scene's in a fucking terrible place right now. Like look at it at this moment, right? So at the moment, the best Swedish team's Fnatic. It's quite clear from the one line they've played. They look pretty decent, right? But even they're nowhere near world beaters. Then you go after that. Right, it was supposed to be NiP after that, but obviously NiP's having some issues here. They're still decent enough, thought, the other lands. Then you've got Godsent, who don't even qualify for any lands, by the way. And they've got good players. That's the part that doesn't make sense. They've got some fucking good players. So the idea that this is what the Swedish scene's doing with all of its talent, it's quite telling that the most successful player in the Swedish scene right now is Olof Meister, who doesn't fucking play in a Swedish team. Like, how has the best scene of all time like gone to this level? And part of the reason is they're so cliquish with who they'll play with.
Yeah.
They often actually refuse to let new talent come through. Admittedly, they have let the Epsilon guys come through and they've kind of harvested them. But, it's just a terrible shame because there's a bunch of good players in the Swedish scene still.
Yeah, let's talk about the fucking false dawn, though, of all of these young Swedish players that all these top existing Swedish talents were going to take under their wing and nurture. And they fucking... what did they get? Like one LAN? All of them get like this tiny window of opportunity. People forget, Get Right wasn't just forged in Mount Doom and dropped into competitive play. Neither was Forest. Everyone had to pay the dues and do an apprenticeship and play under more experienced players and learn and collectively develop their skill set. That's completely gone in Sweden now. It's almost getting to the point where it kind of reminds me a little bit of how the NA scene was at the end of Source, where it was like you had to have somebody vouch for you to get the opportunity. And if you didn't knock it out the park in your first couple of attempts, you'd get benched, you'd get replaced.
Well, here's one area actually where I think actually NACS and European CS, Swedish CS rather, have a shared quality, is that Swedish CS actually lacks in-game leaders at the moment. They have barely any. That's why they've had to gamble on this Golden guy in Fnatic, because they've barely got anyone who's like a real in-game leader. And so as a result, one thing that's very key, that as you're saying here, is even someone who has talent in Sweden, as they're rising through the ranks, they don't ever hit a good in-game leader until they get into like Fnatic, Godsent, whatever it might be. You don't get it. Like in the Danish scene, you go down to like teams 5, 6, 7. There's like players there, experienced Source players, people who've led teams before. You at least get the basics on your way up the ladder, and then if you go into a heroic, you know what a tactic is, and you know roughly how these things are done and how they play this map. You don't get kind of any of the training in Sweden in that sense.
Yeah, but I mean, again, think about just some of the names. I'm sort of looking them up here, like names of players who've just sort of had like these brief windows of opportunity, and like it'll sound mad hypocritical because we did wreck some of them, but like JZ Walkings, who was dog shit when he went to Renegades, won LAN, pretty much didn't even get a chance to go to E-League or anything, was taken from an AWPing role, was put into a support rifling role, did terrible as you'd expect, and obviously we all laughed about it and we all wrecked him, and I did a tweet saying it was nice of Renegades to let a fan who won a competition play for them and all of this. But, by all accounts, he was a decent-ish player. I'm not saying amazing. I did a whole bit on this exact podcast saying people really overrated his skills when he was in Fnatic Academy, because they did. But if the raw talent's there, who's developing it? Certainly wasn't Renegade, certainly wasn't any of his fellow Swedes. What the fuck's he going to do now? Then before him, you've got like what we used to call the children of Anders, Palf. What happened to Palf? right?
I think he actually retired.
No, where the fuck is Pauw? Motherfuckers out there forgot about Pauw. According to Wikipedia, he's played for Team Blank. Like, okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, this was a player that was being really talked up as a decent talent. And again, I know you never bought that fucking flavour Kool-Aid, but a lot of other people did. People who supposedly know about the game. Other Swedes. I've had top players come up and tell me in the past, back when because Pauw was in Godsent, obviously. Yes. Yeah, Pauw can do all right. And then before that, it was Team Property, I think. And, these other, fringe team.
That's also what's weird, though. Here's the thing, right? Think about how strange that is. So in most of the other scenes, it's very rare people actually straight up retire. But there's actually been a lot of people who did just fall through the cracks in the Swedish scene. You obviously, listen, Pauw's obvious. What Makelele, he's just gone. Pitt was actually in fucking Nip.
Was coming to Pitt.
Where are all these people?
Yeah. So Makelele's out because he's supposedly toxic or whatever. I feel sorry for Makelele, even if the rumors of his toxicity are true and he's a difficult person to play with. I've heard that from some people. Makelele says, it's not true. He just speaks his mind. You can obviously split hairs. But, at the end of the day, he put together the team that went on to basically become the Roots of FaZe, and then was immediately shunned. He did it again recently with it was the Dignitas team, wasn't it? And immediately out. And seems to be this one thing. He gets you into a wicked org with the salary and that, and everyone's, cheers, Makelele, nice one, Michael. Yeah, you're out, by the way. Get the fuck out of my team. It's Scoots, isn't it? The Scoot system. Get the fuck out of my industry. Immediately, you're gone. So I feel sorry for Makelele. He's a competent player. Remember, statistically, NIP won a fucking tournament with Makelele. They won Star Ladder. So he's completely fallen through the cracks. Pitt, who you mentioned, fallen through the cracks, was in Nip and then got the wrist injury. Where the fuck's he? Another one, fairly at the launch. Now, is it because these guys aren't good enough and were overhyped, or is it because they're not being allowed enough time to develop as a talent? I'll tell you another one. Disco Doplan, right? He's
in Godsent.
Yeah, he's in Godsent, but I mean, think about at one point when he was in Fnatic, he was going to be shoulder to shoulder with the Olofmeisters and everything else. Now he's kind of like a role player alongside people giving Freddie B more props than, sure he's the captain, than Disco Doplan. Obviously, everyone talks about Twist, everyone talks about Schneider, Dennis. Disco Doplan's kind of the guy who's going to be almost like a fifth Lauren in that team. He's going to get all the dog shit roles. This is a guy, I've had Swedes tell me Disco Doplan's one of the most complete players they've ever played with. Okay. Top Swedes.
Was Exist right before he did a line and went and did a video.
No, but
thing is, Richard, fucking Disco Doplan.
Keep in mind, after Fnatic went awry, he had a trial with NIP, didn't he? Before he wound it up in Godsent, I think it was. So he played a couple of games with them competitively as a stand-in. So again, another talent. Yep, sure, Godsent are doing all right. You've just said, though, don't qualify for any fucking lands. How is it possible that a roster with Twist on it, Dennis on it, Freddie B on it, Schneider on it, can't get to a fucking LAN?
It's mental, isn't it?
Yeah, what is going on? And then on top of that as well, we all remember Plessen. Remember Plessen?
Yeah.
Fnatic Academy. Now with Japolino, is they're called. Yeah, with Tabs and Freddie Frog, and everyone's telling me these guys are up and coming play. Well, I don't know what's going on with Sweden, because it used to be one of the scenes that had discussed in depth. Hampus is another.
You know what I'm going to do, Rich? I think I'm just going to get all the money in esports, and that's not my usual rant that I usually go on. No, the way I'm going to get all the money in esports now is I'm going to launch a third YouTube channel, and that's when I realised in that moment, as I said that sentence, how ridiculous I actually am. I'm going to launch a second. No, I've got a second one already. A third channel, and what I'm going to do on this third channel is I'm going to dress up in some sort of outfit, like I'm going to make a separate character, like a Dr. Disrespecter, And the whole point of this character is...
How would you make a bigger...
Are you ready? It's going to be an even more ridiculous character than Anders, who obviously can't be a real person. But this character, all he's going to do is talk up players. He's just going to say they're all rising talents. And all I'll do is every time one doesn't make it, I'll forget about that. And I'll just talk up the one that makes it. And every team, Freddie Frog, he's got some skills. Japolino, Magicino, just fucking just making shit up catchphrases and everything, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get all the money, because on my channel, I'll get all the people who like that real shit, that fucking boom bap hip hop real rap. I'll get all those specs. That's how I think of my channel. I'll get all those.
Boom bap hip hop.
Exactly. All that straight fire lyricism, but hard street edge that you've come to know and love and need in many ways. And then on the other channel, I'll be straight up in the club, won't I? Popping bottles, party tunes, something for your bitch.
And in all of that, we forgot about Wenton. Wenton, mate. There's another cunt. You know, it's mad. It's mad. Sweden's just lost so much talent. And then meanwhile, you look at what's happening over at Denmark.
Yeah.
Everything gets fucking harnessed, doesn't it? It's bonkers. Mate, they've put together 3 of the top, certainly 2 in the top 10, and with heroic top 12, top 15, and then
you look
the
at
number 1 team in the world's got a Danish in-game leader.
Oh, yeah, when you include Carrigan as well, it's ridiculous. Yeah, you look at the top 10 over the last year or so. Heroic's been in and out of it a bunch. Obviously, North and Astralis have always been in it. Astralis at the very high end, North close there, but then hovering down. Denmark outstrips, pretty much every country to a level that is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, this is like old school Sweden, where it was like even every team was like, fuck it, we got to get a Swede. We got to have a Swede. This is like how it used to be. But yeah, Sweden's fallen off, man. It's fucking crazy. I'd like to say, you know what? I think you might be on point. I think this might be one of the rare moments where it's an astute observation, like a proper on-point astute observation. Because, yeah, it probably is due to lack of quality in-game leaders. Like, seriously. Because look, you're still smirking about your fucking bat bot. Boom bop.
Boom bap, mate.
Sorry, man. Sorry, keep it right. So, yeah, I think that's probably on point because, I still don't count Exist. He never was an in-game leader, by the way. He wasn't like an IGL historically. And yeah, you think about the ones they've got, they don't have any pedigree. They don't have any tenure. Wouldn't know what to do with talent if it bit them on the arse. No joke about Hollywood. So, right.
Say goodbye to Hollywood.
Indeed. Here's something, talking about 1.6. Obviously, they've confirmed what we all knew, the Brazilian team. With KNG, Henny, and Lucas. And it's going to have, Bit?
Yes.
And who's the other guy?
FNX.
Yeah, of course, yeah, FNX. So obviously, I know your video will be coming soon.
Sure.
Who was Bit? But Bit 1 was the old in-game leader from MIBR, right? The one with Kogu in.
Yes. So. But to just clarify for people who don't know, he wasn't actually in the lineup that won. I believe he wasn't in the one that won ASWC, but he was in the one the next year that did very well. And he
came in after that.
He still was in some good lineups, and he is probably the most famous in-game leader from Brazil, basically. But I will say, one area that I wouldn't go too crazy in terms of like thinking it's going to be great is he's not a guy who just came out of retirement now and started playing again. As far as I know, he has been playing CSGO the whole time.
Yeah.
So he just was in obscurity,
Yeah, he has.
And remember, they're obviously in their own kind of like XI by power type world where it's like, who the fuck can we even get to play with us? So they had to get some old guy that they knew,
Well, to start my favourite show, here's the thing, a new show by Richard Lewis and Duncan Torrance Shields. He's been brought in, right, to he's the in-game leader who obviously looks at the talent he's working with at the moment. As you said, been in obscurity. And these guys have the talent to get you somewhere, plus go into a major. Great for him. No one's going to expect him to do anything on the fucking server except fucking stop those guys going wild. And that's, enjoy it, bit. Be careful what you wish for. But here's the problem that he's got. And that is that the organizations that are going to want them, I don't know. There was a rumor. Me and Moses were doing a cast the other day on my channel, and somebody just dropped in going, "Heh, super secret source, Echo Fox." And then somebody went, "God, that super secret source was right. Echo Fox has followed them on Twitter," and you know how it snowballs from there. Now I haven't heard anything. I'm not particularly trying to hear where they end up, because frankly, I think the whole thing's a fucking embarrassment. But it is strange that Echo Fox would link themselves to that because. Echo Fox have always talked about how they want, athleticism, professionalism, this is a complete antithesis. But equally as well, if you remember the old Echo Fox philosophy where they brought in all those big NN names, and I'll be real, like, obviously love Sean Gares and Ryan and all them boys. Those players took that fucking org for a ride, or certainly there were some people on there that did. I mean, it was embarrassing how woefully underprepared they were for certain games, how far off international pace they were, and they looked the part and they were great on social media, but, you know, Echo Fox put a lot of money into an absolute pile of mediocrity, which people can pick the bones out of whose fault it was. But the idea of them suddenly doing an about face and going away from the all-American professional route, which is very much what Rick Fox stands for as an individual. You know what I mean? How does that work? That can't be true, surely.
No, because that's the part that makes the least sense about it, is that if you pick these players up, here's the part. I expected the sort of org that would do this would be sort of like a mid-tier European org who just wants a fast cash in, like Penta or something. And they're like, listen, all we have to do is pay your expenses to the major. Actually, I don't know how that works. Maybe the major, the developer does. So all you probably have to do is pay them like 2 months' salary until the major, you know. Yeah. So I would have thought someone would do that, thinking, right, I get a discount major spot, basically. I'm shocked if any big org that wants to have a proper rep of being professional and being like an org that could get big sponsors and all that. Like, I can't believe anyone would do that, you know, because it doesn't seem worth it. The upside doesn't seem worth it.
Well, I mean, the other prospect is, of course, they come out and they go, right, you know, what better organization for them to be at than one that understands professionalism, and we will tame the savage beast. You know, like maybe that's the angle they're going to go with, that we're going to turn them into professionals in that sense.
I don't know if that works, does it?
As a marketing thing, it does.
Maybe if they're on like the fucking 12-step program. If they go to the major with that chip 2 months, then I'll believe it. That's straight fire, by the way, as a marketing scheme. Do that, Echo Fox.
Yeah, why not? Like, we have, right? Well, I mean, we live in a time where fucking Freakazoid has to go to bullying seminars, so why not, mate?
And then they're like, right, have you got your chips then? We're going to do that thing when we all walk out. Oh, I've lost, man. What do you mean? Oh, I think I bet it by accident at the casino. Why you done that, idiot? I was drunk. What do you think?
And the other prospect, of course, if Evil Geniuses are still floating out there for a team, they won't give a fuck, will they? They just want back in the game, you know?
That's how desperate we've gotten now, is it?
Well, it's like I told you last time we brought up Evil Geniuses looking for a team. The longer they fucking leave it, the less value the brand has every day. It just evaporates as a memory.
You know what I heard?
What did you hear, Duncan?
I heard from a little bird that Evil Geniuses would have been this team that he calls in now, this like Ghost Gaming team or whatever it's called.
What, they were going to buy him from Ghost?
No, they would have just been this team. And that something happened at some way, I'm not quite sure what or at liberty to say, and they just didn't go through with it, and instead it was the Ghost people who got him instead. That was going to be their sort of gambit, was to get Hiko, I assume.
That's pretty crazy.
So I guess they are desperate. I'm actually wrong, Richard. They are incredibly desperate.
Hiko's at Rogue now.
Right, Rogue.
Rogue. Sorry. Yeah, just check.
I don't know any of these teams, man. I don't watch Tier 7 and ACS. I don't care, like, if you're like, but you're friends with Hiko. Mate, my brother could be playing that game. I'm not going to fucking watch it. He can
I'll watch the Rogue games, mate. If you watch, the only channel that I follow, I'm like simple in that sense, is Spencer's. It's the only channel I'm interested in.
Oh, he's a great lad. But,
I want him to do well, man. I want him to have that last hurrah. And, you know, fuck it, mate. He nearly wrecked Cloud9. I've never seen nothing like it. He dropped like fucking almost 40 frags or something mental against them. Took him to overtime. Wasn't enough, of course. But yeah, you know, my understanding is that Hiko's always had a good relationship with some of the management around Evil Geniuses and some of the friends, you know. So it would make sense. And obviously, I imagine Hiko would be the one handling those types of negotiations. But fair enough. I think it's a bit of a coup for Rogue, honestly, because they've never really done anything. You know. So, but yeah, all right. Okay. So, other big news today, mate. It's over. The war is over. Seized has stepped down.
Man alive.
He stepped down from the active roster. I like this, actually. HLTV did a wicked picture. You know, when newspapers do it. And it's like, Duncan Shields caught in frustrating scandal. And they'll find out one picture of you like going, bloody hell.
Yeah, as if you're reacting now.
Yeah.
But like, as all that would have a picture, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They've had to go through and dig them all out. So here it is. They found this picture of like Caesar super frustrated.
I think that is just him every day that he was in Navi, like.
It's undoubtedly because he was playing like fucking garbage, wasn't he? So this is kind of, I think, been a little bit rushed, but there's some super interesting dynamics to this. So first of all, my understanding from my little birds is that Seized wasn't necessarily going to be removed from the team. It was still kind of up in the air about what they wanted to do with him because they felt he still had some value. But after all this Twitter bullshit, it was just like a no fucking brainer. And they quickly went out and set up a stand-in, which is going to be this Luke with a 1. A guy from Spirit Academy. It's not like he's some young...
Not even from Spirit Academy.
Yeah.
And I'm looking up some of his stats now. It ain't good. It's not looking good, Richard Brightway.
No, but he's not going to be there, mate.
Sure.
Think about it.
Yeah, he's just standing in now.
Yeah. He literally is a stand-in in every sense of the word. Like, I mean, he's 24. If he's got failure to launch written all over his fucking. I mean, apart from the fact he's got a haircut like that Anton Chigurh from fucking No Place for Old Men, which don't help shit. But
he doesn't have the aim of that guy. That guy was a fucking monster.
If only he fucking did.
He did man a shotgun.
So
I believe I can't remember the movie.
Yeah, he did actually. So he's out. He's just filling space. But that shows to me how fucking irreparable the breakdown with Seized and the guys is. He won't even act as a stand-in while they get this shit sorted. Now,
that does smell of like rank unprofessionalism. How else can you say it?
Yeah,
unless they're like beating him up or something. What excuse do you have not to at least like play out your contract, finish, helping him qualify for the major? All that stuff. Come on.
Yeah, and Kane came out, not the wrestler, Kane.
Or Big Daddy Kane.
Not Big Daddy Kane. Yeah, no, of course. Came out and said, because Don Hassey, a.k.a. Yi Lamau, your pal, he came out and leaked a screenshot of like TeamSpeak, and they were like playing on it with this Luke guy, and it was like confirmation or Seized is definitely gone. So Kane had to come out and say, yeah, it's all true. And this is what he said in the statement. This is a rough translation that made it onto Reddit. It said, we're already starting our fight for keeping our place in the ESL Pro League. Obviously, Na'Vi are fucking rock bottom at the moment. He said the situation is very hard, especially because the most important match for us will be with Godsent. And we need to have 2 wins over them. So imagine this situation where right at this crucial moment to stay in a league, which, by the way, is WISA sanctioned and you're one of the WISA teams. So, again, you might end up in this weird Virtus Pro twilight, where they'll do everything to try and keep you in the league, but you're just too shit. They're not using Seized. They're going to use this completely unproven player at this level from an academy team at the last minute. So something is really fucked up. And they say here, Seized is inactive right now, and we're going to play with a stand-in. Everyone saw the screenshot. It's not fake. The matches will be played with Luke. The guy is very positively charged and brought good vibes into the team.
Were they not listening to the last episode?
No. Yeah,
Do not use fucking scientific terms when you are talking about some vague shit. What do you mean he's very positively charged? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, no, but therein lies the answer, doesn't it, Duncan?
Okay.
Therein is the explanation for why Seized is gone.
Because he's become a negative element in the team, and he's tearing the team apart.
It's never what people say. It's always you got to read between the lines.
So basically, it was like the fucking room. It was like, Seized, you're tearing me apart. I did not tear you apart. See,
it's pretty good.
Hello, man. Whatever.
Yeah. Hello, Duncan. So he's basically stood down. Now we all know what's going on.
Okay.
With everything that's coming and the timing of this, Na'Vi over a proverbial barrel, mate. They've got to go for electronic. They've got to. This is it now. Any holding out and posturing on this, what I've said, I think, is a reasonable low six-figure buyout, somewhere in the region of $120,000 to $150,000 for one of the best young talents in the world. Not bad, in my opinion, given the current climate of Counter-Strike, where players are going for $500,000. They've got to do it now. They've got to. This is it. This is make or break. This is where either Na'Vi don't buy electronic and don't meet the valuation from Flipside, and they may as well just say, "Yeah, we've given up. We are tapped all the way out."
By the way, if you lose Pro League and you fuck up the major and then end up in the minor, etc., the road back would be so ridiculous. I can't see how it's not worth the investment. Doesn't matter what they charge, even if they charge you like $400K, you got to do it, right?
Yeah. And, like I said, they've got to, and they've got to do it quick. There's no more room for posturing, negotiation. I saw the CEO of Hellraiser saying, electronics going to come in and replace them. I don't think that guy has any particular insight that any wouldn't. I've heard the same rumors.
By the way, can I just ask you this? Why is the fucking scene like that in CIS? Think about that for a second. Yeah. So the CEO of Hellraisers is telling everyone that a player is going to go from a team that isn't Hellraisers to another team that isn't Hellraisers. Why the fuck are you telling everyone that?
Yeah, just click.
Jack from Cloud9 doesn't come out. By the way, everyone, this player will be leaving Team Liquid and going to CLG. Just thought I'd let you know.
So, I mean, everyone in the chat, again, morons, of course. Okay. I'm telling you that electronics definitely going to Na'Vi. Yes. But I wouldn't say this is official confirmation. Right. It's not official confirmation.
Well, you wouldn't waste. Listen, you've already made your money for this episode, so you wouldn't waste a detail like that on this episode. You'd save that and make your own video, make more money, wouldn't you?
No, well,
I know the way the game's played.
You might do that. I'm obviously just going to say though, it's going to happen, but what insight do I have? Well, contacts and people have talked to me. Same thing the HR CEO has, but everyone's going, the HR CEO said it. Hellraiser said it, so it must be what fuck. How's that the barometer of fact or fiction? Whether someone from Hellraiser said it, you know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, he's definitely going to go. I'm happy for Flipside, honestly, because I think they're going to get a fair valuation instead of all this nonsense of having a demotivated player who wants out and none of the money and none of the benefits, which sucks. Now this is where it gets interesting, right? Because Electronic definitely to Na'Vi, I'd feel comfortable putting a body part on it at this point. Where the fuck does Seized go?
And where?
But listen, could he go in the other direction?
I mean, I don't see why not. Obviously, it's a bunch of players. Here's the thing: Flipside's not terrible. They have some decent players.
They're solid, and they seem to make it to majors and grind out.
Also, by the way, he does deserve to be in a team like that. He should have to work his way back from the bottom.
Yeah, we've said that. And, I think Seized has got to go somewhere. The reality is that even with his shit run of form, he's too good a player not to be in a team. If you go back 12 months, he's an essential component of.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I actually think he should really do. If I had to give him some real advice, do you remember what you used to always say about Get Right? That he just needs, when he was in a bad state in his career, you always used to just say he should just take a few months off, regroup, come back, start again. So I think Seized should just go away, go to the beach, have cocktails, play a little bit of CS for fun to keep your skills up. What I'm saying is he should join Villa Mix. See how I did that?
Yeah, not bad. Pretty good. Straight fire.
Exactly. I kept, you couldn't tell where it was going.
It was a callback, mate. It was a callback. But yeah, I mean, do you think that'll happen? Or if not, do you think Cease is going to be pushed out in the wilderness? I will say this, it's not a great look if you want to ingratiate yourself to future employers that you're ending your Na'Vi tenure in sort of this really, it does seem unprofessional. It's not a good advertisement for you to get me on board.
But with that said, I mean, if you're a team like Flipside, beggars can't be choosers, you probably have to do that. I mean, Flipside themselves are in a nightmare scenario where they're like in the scenario that some of these other teams are, where what people don't understand is the buyouts aren't just bad for good players. There's buyouts for players you have never heard of, who have never done anything, because everyone in the scene's smart enough now to realise whoever's on your team, lock them down. Doesn't matter if you're never going to get anything out of them. Make sure anyone else who does pays you through the nose.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely the philosophy. Final question. Is the arrival of Electronic going to fix Na'Vi? Is he that good?
Oh, here's the thing. I think he'll be very good. And I do think him and Simple combined, that already, like, first of all, if you're Simple, that definitely takes a weight off your mind. You know, I've got another guy who's a straight banger. I think they can definitely do a lot. Like, it's not like Na'Vi was getting bodied in all these LAN games. On LAN, they would lose, but they'd have some close maps. Because obviously, I mean, they do have one of the best players in the world. So I think you added Electronic, it starts to fix it. I don't think it's a one roster move fix to help them go to their peak, though. I don't think they're going to be going to like top 4 at the major or something. You know, they probably need a bit more than that. But it's definitely a step in the right direction. And once you have Electronic, now you open the door where you're no longer a team that looks really bad and people might not want to join. Now you're starting to look good again. Now you're Na'Vi again, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. Also, as well, my understanding is that it's one of the key reasons why Electronic is finally going to come at this high evaluation. Is that, you know, Simple, obviously we know he's expressed some...
He's close to the end of his contract, right?
Yeah, he's close to the end of his contract and he's expressed some concerns on stream about how he doesn't know what he's going to do. Nothing unprofessional. I've got to say this, I think Simple has finally sort of turned that corner. Like, people who were calling him toxic or negative or whatever, you certainly couldn't base that on anything he does outwardly. Not on his Twitter, not on his stream. You know, he seems to be a much more calm and measured person, almost as if you grow up as you get older, you know. But one of the things I've also heard is that, like, Simple really fucking rates Electronic highly. Okay. And he's excited at the prospect of playing with him. So that was another motivating factor for Na'Vi to finally get the checkbook out. Because, I mean, can you imagine a world where Seized goes, you don't buy Electronic, you stick with fucking Anton Chigurh, and then Simple after 2 months goes, well, this is my own idea of hell. I'm Henry G. Yeah. I'm out. And he fucks off.
No, that's an example, by the way, of where the implied value becomes insane. Because even if you have to overpay for Electronic now, if it means Simple signs another contract, that might instantly be worth the price tag right there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially given there's a lot of teams. I mean, as soon as that was put into the fucking water, that was like chum. All the fucking Sharks turned up like fucking hell. The prospect of having Simple in your team. Fuck language barriers. Fuck everything. People would bend over backwards, break the bank, do whatever you had to do to get Simple in. Like, Simple is one of the few players in the world, like kind of alongside Nico, coldzera, this tier of player that could literally play for anyone, and there'd be no questions asked. If somebody dropped like $750,000 buyout, most expensive player in the world, someone would pay it for Simple. Unequivocally.
Also, I can tell you, just from knowing the mentality of managers in CS and even the way sports teams think, as much as on the outside, when you hear someone has a rep as a toxic player, right, you have to understand, part of the reason why Makelele got fucked up out of the scene is because he both had a rep as a toxic player and he wasn't like the best AWPer in the world. You know, he didn't have the game to overcome that. When you're as outrageously talented as some of the guys you're talking about, Nico, Simple, who've had that tag on them at some point in time, there'll always be some team out there, a good team, that'll be like, I'll take a chance that I'm the one who can fix it, or who it won't be a problem for. You know, I'll make a team that doesn't get, because what happens is then the upside is so ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's a step in the right direction. Might be too little too late. We don't know. I think Na'Vi, though, I mean, at least... And I like to say, it's one of these resolutions. I think everybody's going to get what they want. I certainly hope Flipside are able to fill the fucking gap Electronic leaves. It's going to be tough. So it'll be interesting to see who they go for. Be interesting to see where Seized ends up. Obviously, watch this space, and we'll be talking more about it on the podcast. Now, good news for you, Duncan, because I know you hate the fan questions at the end. It's your least favourite bit of the show, because you got to acknowledge them and interact with them and treat them like equals. Good news. Nobody bothered, mate. They don't care.
Ideal fans. Keep paying, though. If anything, if you give $100, but you give $100 and don't ask a question, in my book, you gave $150. Thanks. You don't, in no way can that be redeemed for $50. There we go, disclaimer.
Yeah. So obviously, thanks to everybody that tuned in over the course of the broadcast. I know we did 2 shows in close proximity, which we don't always do. And we usually do 4 shows a month. I don't know how's it work now, Sam? We got 1 more to go, have we?
Yeah, I think it's our 3rd of the month.
Yeah. So what, next month?
What do you mean?
Well, you said the 3rd. Oh no, this show's the 3rd of the month, not the next one.
No. This show is the 3rd of this month. The 3rd show of the month.
So no, the 3rd of the month.
No. I know. I'm confusing myself. Yeah.
Next month. Yeah. Right, good. So obviously we've got 1 more to go this month, and then we'll have a nice holiday and sip some cocktails.
So wait a minute, do we have 1 more this month or 1 more?
Just a few seconds left here. 7-6 left. Freiburg goes for the kill. He's going to pick it up. If just exists survives, he's going to win the round. There's no time. Oh my God, Freiburg! Are you kidding me? They win the round because of it. Yeah, now Freiburg is going to be walking around that.
Hello, everyone. It's another episode of By the Numbers. It barely feels like we've been away, almost as if we were cramming in content for no good reason at all. But it's just as well we're 2 of the most entertaining motherfuckers in esports. We're here to make you laugh. We're here to make you sing. And joining me to do that is, of course, Duncan Shields.
Are we here to make them sing? Is that?
No, we're not going to do that. No.
You're mistaking this for like X Factor or something.
Yeah, I was getting a bit. I am rich. I am.
That would be a great fucking idea for a panel, by the way. Like a show where it's like X Factor, but people audition to show off like their CS knowledge or their casting or something. And we're the panel members, you know?
Yeah.
Just a few seconds left here. 7-6 left. Freiburg goes for the kill. He's going to pick it up. If just exists survives, he's going to win the round. There's no time. Oh my God, Freiburg! Are you kidding me? Because of it. Yeah, now Freiburg is going to be walking around that.
Hello, everyone. It's another episode of By the Numbers. It barely feels like we've been away, almost as if we were cramming